Hi, and welcome back. Last time we spoke about the 3 levels of intimacy. We spoke about emotional intimacy and how the nida phase is meant to bring the couple closer to each other in an emotional way, a more intimate way. And this time we're going to continue speaking about intimacy. This chapter starts off with B'nai Meredes, the children of the way it's translated, a woman that is rebellious, a rebellious wife, a wife that doesn't want to be with her husband. And it's important to understand that a woman naturally wants to be close to her husband. A woman wants to be loved, seen, cherished by her husband. And if a woman is choosing not to be, then the question is why? The advice I would say to men that are in such a situation is to ask themselves, how is it that I can make my wife feel seen? How can I make my wife feel loved and cherished? What is it that I can do to show her that I love her? And sometimes it's complicated, but most of the times it isn't. Most of the times it's telling her more how much you love her. Doing things, doing acts to show her that you love her. Not that you love her because you love yourself. You love her because you love her. You cherish her. That she means so much to you. Give her that feeling of safety in the relationship. Let her feel like she's the only one. She's the only woman in the world. And if you look at it this way, if you start thinking of how you can connect to your wife in this way, there's no question she'll reciprocate. A woman that feels cherished, loved, a woman that feels like she's the only woman in her husband's life, a woman that feels like she means everything to her husband, wants to be close to her husband. The next part of the chapter speaks about mitzvahs oina in the way it's described many times as simchas oina. Simchas oina is the excitement, the joy of oina, of her time. And Rebbe Lapian says that if oina is done without simcha, it's like putting on tefillin without the parshas inside. It's missing the whole point of the mitzvah. The Maral says that oina is simcha. Just by the definition. Oina is oneness, wholesomeness, completion, which we discussed previously, is what shulam is. And when there's shulam, there's shleimus, there's wholeness, there's unity, there's completion, automatically there's simcha. The Chazon Ish was asked, where do we know of mitzvahs oina from the Torah? And the Chazon Ish responded with a smak that brings down that we know it from the mitzvah of Shana Rishona, where it says, V'simachas ishtay. And the Chazon Ish points out that the smak could have used many references as to where we know mitzvah oina from the Torah. He chose to use the mitzvah of Shana Rishona that uses the words V'simachas ishtay, alluding to V'simachas ishtay, mitzvahs oina being done with joy, excitement. And we also discussed, just a reminder, that Shana Rishona is not a mitzvah that ever goes away. It's a mitzvah of getting to know your wife in this intimate way your whole life. Every time you get to know something more in your wife, and again, it goes vice versa. It's both, the mitzvah is both, but it's the man who initiates. Every time you get to know something more about your wife, something new about your wife, you're being mekayim that mitzvah of Shana Rishona. He also brings down that Yitzchak mitzachek es Rivka ishtay. Yitzchak was playful with his wife Rivka. Yitzchak, our forefather, was playful with his wife Rivka, and Rashi says it's alluding to them being intimate together, bringing out that intimacy should be done in a playful, exciting, joyful way, because that's ultimately what brings the couple closer together. There's a underlying shame that comes with being, like, communicating about intimacy, about mitzvah saina. It's almost, not almost, many times it's easier to do the actual act of intimacy, to actually be intimate with your spouse is easier than talking about it, communicating about it. And I feel like, and very likely the reason is because that's where true intimacy lies, in the communication, in the how much of you do I know? How much of you are you willing to share? Again, I don't know if I should bring this into the explanation, but animals also do the act of intimacy. Not intimacy, the physical act. But they don't communicate about it. There's no connection being built. So arguably, the deeper connection comes from the human connection part of it, the part that makes us one, comes from the communication that we have in this topic. Talking to each other about it, asking each other how we feel about it, sharing the feelings, getting past all those shameful feelings, and addressing the shame, letting your spouse in to your world, your wants, your desires, is magical. It really takes the relationship to a whole new level. And communication is it's a fundamental, but sometimes it's so hard to share our inner world with another person, and even if it's our spouse. And many times it's hard to even share it with ourselves. We're too ashamed to share our inner truth with ourselves. We're not even willing to acknowledge some of our own truths. And a trick that I always tell people is, before sharing something shameful with other people, first see for yourself if you're ashamed about your own feelings as well, your own story, your own world. And how do you do that? You tell yourself your story. You talk to yourself. I know it sounds crazy, but you talk to yourself. You talk to yourself. You go while you're driving in the car, nobody's around. You say, "Hey," and you start telling yourself about yourself. Tell yourself a story that you wish you can share with your wife. You wish your wife knew about you, and vice versa, obviously. You wish your spouse knew about you. And share it with yourself. And after sharing it with yourself enough times, you'll notice you adding more details. You become more comfortable with the story. And eventually, you'll feel comfortable and confident enough to share it with your spouse. And that's what intimacy is. That's where the magic happens. That's where the connection happens. That's where the unity happens. And that's what Hashem had in mind with intimacy, with mitzvah saina, with simcha saina. Thank you so much for joining.